breaking point, and I've had enough of all the injustices that's been put upon us as family, you know. I said, where's all of our people? Where's the ALS? Where's all these AMS? All of these big shots that work in these places, where are they? What, is it because it's not affecting them as a people? We're meant to be all coming together, and I'm sick of it. But I wish there was more support out there, because I've had enough and I feel like giving in, but I know I can't, because this is my boy, and this is where I've got 5 other children, where they're looking at us and hoping for us not to give up and just go down that road of destruction as well. But it's so hard, you know.
Rex Bellotti Jnr, as we know, was a 15-year-old at the time, 2.5 years ago, when Albany police ran him down, allegedly on the wrong side of the road. We're making the claim that the entire system of investigation from this has been entirely unsatisfactory and has begged more questions than answers from this. We've heard that 4 days after Rex Bellotti Jr. was run over by police in 4-wheel drive, the police were conveniently there in the Albany Advertiser, the local newspaper, declaring that this young man had thrown himself out in front of the 4-wheel drive, case closed. We're here to say that this is not a case closed. In fact, this is an ongoing injustice, not only to himself, to his family, but to Indigenous people across Australia who, again, are treated like they're animals to be run down and to have little concern about them. This continues beyond that night, in that over a month afterwards, still, people had not been investigated from, had not been interviewed as to this crime, and more we're hearing. And what we're realizing is just the extent to which the police in Albany have tried to cover this case up.
This is a young boy's life that was destroyed. This is a case where those in positions of authority, those in uniform, have run down a child, have caused him to nearly die, and I don't know how he did not die. They have then, not even in a clever way, not even covertly, not even in a subtle way, they have not investigated. They have relied on Rex Sr. and another man. Rex Sr. wasn't even present to identify and bring witnesses to them. What are they doing? So there has been no investigation, no genuine investigation. There's been an internal inquiry which of course cleared the police of all wrongdoing, because they did such a fantastic job when they didn't inform the family that they had hit their son, even though they had to drive pretty much directly past their house on the way from where the incident scene is to the cop shop in Albany. They also have lied throughout the documents. What I want to know is, this isn't an isolated case at all, and with every other case as well, why is it that the Western Australian Police Force think that they can commit murder or attempted murder just because of the colour of someone's skin? That is wrong, and it has to stop. There has to be a public inquiry now, because this family, a good family, should not be hurting. These children, the Bellotti children, should not be traumatised for the rest of their life because some disgusting scum, who should never have been allowed to even be anywhere near working with the police force, are running around committing attempted murder. Now, if this building here, the people inside, if they actually mean something more than the disgusting colonial invasion, destroy everything that was already here, if they mean more than that, if they mean something real, then they should call for a public inquiry now, because this is wrong, and it isn't isolated, and it has to stop now, and BSG is not going to stop. They will be charged.
All we want is for fairness and justice. We want a public inquiry to find out exactly what happened during that night. We want to find out what happened. How did this young fella come to be run over by a police vehicle that was driving on the wrong side of the road? We want to find out what happened in relation to him receiving medical treatment immediately after being run over. We want to find out what the delay was in relation to this young fella having an operation that could have helped in relation to the rehabilitation of his leg. So we want to find out all these things. We want to find out how the family can be helped in relation to counselling, in relation to compensation for the injuries the young boy has received, for the grief and trauma that the family has gone through. So what I'm saying is only fair.
These people need to be made accountable, they need to be taken to task, there needs to be an investigation. As Uncle Darryl's alluded to, all those different areas and circumstances of it all needs to be fine-tuned and it needs to be dealt with. And there needs to be outcomes. What I want is to have our day in court with this as well. We're supposed to live in a democracy. Let's have our day in court. Right now they've been the judge, jury and executioners and we haven't had and they've signed and sealed off on it and we haven't had our day in court. Charges should be made. They should have been laid from the outset. The officers in question should have been suspended pending an investigation. The vehicle should have been impounded and forensically tested. They did not do none of the processes.
Here present, there's a lot of folk that are disempowered from the opportunity for some form of justice, and they have no route to that justice. And it's a struggle that the Bellotti family have had since the 6th of March 2009, having exhausted every avenue for some justice, including the Triple C. Now, one thing that must be understood about the Triple C did not clear the police. The superintendent of the Southwest, Dean Lacombe, recently said that we were cleared in the newspapers. Well, he lied. What happened was the Triple C in October of 2009 came out and said there was gross mishandling and slammed the inquiry by the police for the lack of it. And if you read the Triple C report, it was strong in its imputations of why this happened.
Give us a quote, Jerry, from the report.
However, the Triple C also said, there is inadequate evidence for us to proceed with investigations in this matter. That is not clearing anybody. That is saying that we don't have CCTV footage like we had for Kevin Spratt. But John Quigley should not be that overworked, should not be able to help people in need. It's his portfolio and job. And I ask Eric Ripper today to commit his Shadow Attorney General to these incidences, which are extreme, which are horrific, and which impute criminality. Twice over. If it wasn't for Paul Amphitakis doing that article, no third-party witness statements would have been collected. Months removed from the actual incident date. The police that night, I'll tell you what happened, my opinion on what happened that night. The police were converging upon the wake that Rex Bellotti Jr. was attending. They turned off their headlights. That's what happened, so they could be inconspicuous, as they do when they turn up to an event where Aboriginal folk coalesce. They were on the opposite side of the road. What happened was Rex Bellotti Jr. was crossing that road at about 11:30 p.m. or thereabouts that night. He didn't see him because the lights were off. What happened was the police didn't see him, and when they did see him, they put their lights on, and that is what Rex Bellotti Jr. also said at the hospital to other parties and later in his statement. And that correlates what other third-party witnesses have said. And that correlates what other witnesses who have come out independent and demarcated since have said. The police hit him at greater force than 40 kilometres per hour and almost clipped another girl who is witness to that, to almost being hit. The police, it is alleged by one witness, moved Rex's body, who in the reports, in the statements, is in the middle of the road, not on the right side of the road. They moved it enough on the opposite side of the road to look like it was in the middle of the road. That's an allegation. That needs to be explored. Triple C also has not done its job to not explore these matters further. Because most of the police statements that I have seen under the Police Freedom of Information Act actually are contrary to each other and far outweigh the assessments of the police officers who have said we've done enough. The police officer went back to the police station that night and asked for his lawyer. The lawyer told him to shut up till Tuesday, 5 days later, to make no statements. Unheard of. Unheard of. Unless the Shiloh says, you know, you're worried or you're guilty of a crime. If he accidentally hit that kid and his lights were off and they were on the opposite side of the road, then fucking admit it. Accept liability, culpability, vicarious liability. Accept that we have to compensate this family instead of abandoning them to themselves. And as Eric goes, well, the DPP did not lay charges against G4S. The DPP did not lay charges against the state government. The DPP did not lay charges against the G4S drivers. And there was adequate evidence for that to happen. The DPP has never succeeded in successful prosecution in any case against anyone in a death in custody or in a dead death in custody like Rex Bellotti Jnr. They have never succeeded. So there is something inherently wrong, not just in the culture of the DPP, but in the individuals appointed and anointed at the DPP and the